was thinking, okay, well, that's a great example, but people are going to be sitting there thinking, well, I don't have musical talent, so I'm not going to go out and be Elvis Presley. So I was thinking about, okay, what's another example? What's another example of boldness? Jesus. We forget, or at least I do, because Jesus is just this figure who's been around my life the whole time. I grew up with Bible stories and good experiences in Sunday school. Jesus was radical. Radical. Up until that time, preaching love, forgiveness, and grace. No. We don't do that. And to demand that of everyone, that was radical. But what was even more radical for me, how many of you are watching the series or have watched the series The Chosen? Anyone here? So I've watched the series, and what I find so fascinating about that series is because they started before Jesus even showed up on the scene. They started with the story of the people who were to become his disciples. And they started this in showing the lives of these people. And they were hard lives. And then this Jesus figure shows up, and he says, "Follow me." And they do. They dropped their normal lives on the spot when Jesus said, "Follow me." Okay, what's going to happen? I don't know. But let's go find out. If that's not bold, I don't know what is. But I so identified with these people because I thought, what must have been going on in their heads? What must have their families said? Are you crazy? You can't just leave. You can't just go follow this person. But there was something inside of them that was greater. It was a desire, a need, something that their heart may have been crying for. I might have to share that from the 9 a.m., Margaret, if I have your permission. Thank you. Maybe we don't entertain this idea of boldness enough in just our regular, everyday life. When we go to the grocery store, when we're walking the dogs, when we know that there's somebody that we should call and pick up the phone and just make a connection with, but we make something else more important, or when we're wrestling with the decision about, should I do this, should I do that? Well, I don't know if I do this, and this is going to happen, and then if I do this, this is going to happen, and I don't know, so I'm just not going to do anything. Because it's too hard to make the choice, because we don't know what's going to happen. My gosh, the disciples had no idea what they were getting themselves, what they were signing up for. They had no idea. So I decided, how am I gonna make this an experience? So in order to make it an experience, I need your permission. Might I be so bold to do something radical right now? I'm going to ask you to get up and change where you are sitting. If you typically sit in the back, move to the front. If you typically sit in the front, move to the back. If you are typically here with a significant other, find a different significant other. Everybody take a breath. And just notice what you notice. Did anybody have the reaction of, oh man, I don't want to switch my seat? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being honest. Did anybody feel a resistance? A resistance? Thank you, Yvette. Thank you. Patty, you felt resistance. Anybody else feel resistance? Like, oh gosh, I told her to be radical and bold, but I really don't want to change my seat. It's that resistance that can be so intoxicating. And by that I mean so subtle that when we are stepping out to do something bigger, grander, bolder, when we are in an Elvis Presley moment where we feel our legs shaken and we want to move it, but we've been told we can't, and we do it anyway. It's that resistance that we feel when the shoulds or the should nots enter into our heads and we don't know which way to go. And so we don't go anywhere. And I especially wanted to do this today. It was very important for me to be here today with this message, not because I think it's a great message, but to unify our congregation, because we are embarking on a journey, a 3-month journey, where we are committing to one another, not to fill in shoes, not to step into shoes, not to fulfill tasks and roles. Yes, we're taking care of all of that, and we are well positioned to take all of that. But my invitation for everyone here today is to understand that our church is not because of one person. Our church exists for a desire to minister to one another. Thank you. Our desire and our willingness to step in and say, I can do that. I can be a minister. And what does that mean? So I had to look up the word. To minister. And I was expecting this very, very, very long definition. Something very, I don't know, full of theology or something. To care for one another. To care for one another. So over the next 3 months, I am asking us to step in and step up and to care for one another, to come together in celebration, to come together in support, to be willing to listen to one another, to pray for one another, to pray for this church, to pray for our minister, that he may utilize his time in whatever way he decides is most nourishing for his soul, so that he can come back and have a clear mind about what is his to do in this space. And that we have a clear mind about what ours is to do. And to show up week for week for week. And to ask the question, how can I help? Do you need me to just sit with you? And so just to set us up for that, to demonstrate how easy this is, I've got a couple questions. First of all, I would like each of you to look to the person sitting closest to you, find a partner. Everybody have a partner? And just say to your partner, I see you in me and me in you. And now share with your partner an internal challenge that you faced this week. something that challenged you. You're not asking for advice. You're not asking for resolution. You're not asking anybody to fix anything. Just share, this week I struggled with, and leave it at that. After each of you have shared, share with your partner something that you loved about yourself this week. Share with your partner something that you loved about yourself this week. And now share with your partner something that you appreciate about being here right now. Something that you appreciate about being here right now. And go ahead and finish up. And come back. And everybody take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And notice what you notice. It's kind of easy to minister to one another, isn't it? It's a willingness to just reach out. A few weeks ago, Reverend Stacy was doing a prosperity series. And one of the prosperity principles that he used, and I don't know, I'm assuming that that these are his words. But he said, here's a prosperity principle for you: to consciously make choices that will create the future we want. To consciously make choices that will create the future we want. And because boldness has genius in it, and it doesn't mean that it shows up with trumpets and fireworks in these great big ways, that boldness can be very subtle, yet very powerful. And so I just want to share with you, for example, that our board president bought a copy of The Science of Getting Rich for every member of the board and said, please read this so we can elevate the prosperity consciousness of this governing body. That was a bold move. Thank you for doing it. And every single member of the board could have said no, but they didn't. They showed a willingness. And members started reading it, and our board treasurer showed up at a meeting, and she was like, oh, yeah, I get it. We got to focus on what we want more of, not what the problem is. We have to put our attention and our focus on what we want. What do we want to create? That was bold. See, because boldness comes with vulnerability. It sometimes requires us to use our voice, to speak out, to introduce new ideas. Margaret, see, I was looking for you right there, Margaret. That's where you usually are. At the 9:15 discussion this morning, Margaret shared with us that her heart is crying for something. It's crying to paint. And she gets her paints out, and then a little voice inside says, oh, you can't paint. And so she puts her paints back. But she committed to something today that before 3 o'clock, she's going to go home and she's going to paint. Thank you. Yes. So what is my closing? My closing is nothing more than an invitation to be with one another, to really be with one another, to ask someone, how's it going? To maybe even ask somebody, what did you love about yourself this week? How did you show up for someone? Is there something I can do for you? Do you need me to listen? Do you need someone to pray with? Because hopefully I was successful in demonstrating that it's not difficult. And this is the perfect space for us to come together, because we come together in so many wonderful ways to support one another. And I just am so grateful and so excited to be here on Sundays with all of you. So, to close this, I'm going to do something very, very bold here. And here's the thing about boldness. The other person can, if you're inviting someone in, can always say no. Yvette, I'm going to put you on the spot, if I may, knowing that you can say no. Now, first of all, Yvette's got one of those voices that I could listen to that I sometimes wish, oh, if I could just listen to Yvette talking in my ear at night, it'd be so wonderful to fall asleep to. Yvette is an experienced prayer chaplain. And so, Yvette, would you be so kind and be so bold to come forth and offer us a closing prayer, specifically for our minister, for our prosperous church, for the congregation, not with any specific outcome, because you know how to do this, but would you honor us with a closing prayer? Thank you. Please.
Let's take a deep breath in. God is. And release, I am. Let's do that again. God is. And release, I am. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Unity South family. Let's be united in prayer as we're taking Kelli's message of boldness and apply it to each and every walk of our life, knowing that the translation of that meaning is ours to decide and ours to manage. Because whatever decision we choose, whatever direction we take in our life, it's our responsibility to manage that decision. And we manage that decision knowing that we are divine in so many ways. We have divine wisdom. We have divinity in our health, in our strength, and in our possibilities. And we make these possibilities happen with our inner guidance. And today, I ask that we reach within, deep within each and every one of us, reach within knowing that we all have the possibility to be guided internally. We all have what it takes to provide that inner strength and guidance to our boldness, to our confident living. And know that you have the health and the wealth and the strength to rise up to whatever occasion we need to today and moving forward. And may you take that into your week. And may we reach out to Reverend Stacy, knowing that he has that inner strength and guidance to rise up, as do we as our community of unity and our oneness. Together, let's just quietly take that internal strength, reach within, and know that we are capable of moving forward in strength, moving forward in oneness, and moving forward in this growth opportunity that's provided to us today and for the next couple of months. And so it is.
That was the perfect closing. Thank you, Yvette. And with that, we can move into special music and our love offering. Brian, would you like to come up?